Bing. There it is, people. Welcome back. This is the Natives in America podcast, and you're listening to your host, Benjamin Juan. And with me, as always, is my co-host, Sky Anton.
Yo, what's up? What it do?
There it is. What does it do? What does it do when it needs to do what it's doing? When you need to do.
Probably.
Okay.
What's up? How are you doing?
Shit, how are we doing, people? I just started a new job. I guess that's an announcement I got to make. I started a new job, so my free time has been swallowed up by this full-time job, and that means we're probably going to wind up releasing a different day. I'm going to try to keep it Fridays, but just so you guys know, it's probably going to have to change. And as far as me and Sky go, we're probably going to be recording either later or earlier, depending on. We haven't even really talked about it, but that's how the cards are going to lay. This is what we're doing now.
No worries.
Yeah, but we'll come out on top, and we'll still make sure that we're sticking to the once a week. Like I think it's been effective and kind of dependable, and kind of not on purpose, but just kind of as a out of the blue type thing. I feel like I've been made either more dependable or I've been accountable. This podcast has kept me accountable to my time, and it's something that it's probably the first thing in a long time I've committed to really hard, where we've actually pulled this off. I think we've missed a couple of release dates here and there, but it was still once a week. And I think we skipped a week once, but we had already recorded for that week, so I was like, damn, we're killing it here. Pretty happy with that. And it's year 3, and I still don't think we're doing what we can. Like, I think there's more out there to talk about, a lot more interviews. I still got a bunch of people in mind that I want to record with, and I'm sure Sky's got more too. Like we agree on a lot of the guests we want to have, but there's probably somebody out there on their own res just itching to talk to us, and we haven't gotten around to them yet. So if you're out there, you want to be on, just let us know. You can comment on the podcast. You can subscribe. You can join the team here, and you can hit notifications so you know when we release. I mean, it'll probably be best since our new release days might change soon. We'll see. You got any announcements, Sky?
No, I'm just listening to yours.
Well, I think that's all I got. I'm working for the tribe, and it's pretty rewarding so far. I think my paycheck, when it comes, is going to tell me whether it's worth it all. Like I was really enjoying working whenever I want and being available for, last minute adventures. And now I'm already noticing, like 2 weeks in, like a week and a half in, that I'm not going to be available. I'm realizing it tonight that I'm not going to be available to just take off at a moment's notice. I'm accountable to the job as well. So there's going to be some adjustments here for sure.
Oh, yeah.
But so far, I'm loving it. I've been enjoying working for the tribe, and maybe you guys will catch me out there sometime. I don't know. We'll see. But so far I like it. I like my team. I actually knew some of the people and didn't realize it until we started talking. And I was like, oh shit, it's you. Like, hey. So anyway, that thing aside, that's my announcement. I got a new job, so I'm gonna have to balance the requirements of this podcast with the requirements of my job. And luckily, this the podcast isn't like a job. I really enjoyed it. It's a work of love that I enjoy coming back to every week, and figuring out with Sky. I think that's what originally kicked this all off was how much I enjoyed talking with Sky on the phone. So, I mean, there it is. I'm talking with one of my friends from way back in the day, and we're just shooting the breeze and putting it out there for other people to shoot the breeze with. So far, it's just been a work of love.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Whoa. I mean the I'm the love of the podcast, guys. The podcast, I'm not trying to make sweet ear love to you, let's keep it professional here, Sky.
Chill.
Damn.
Keep it together, man.
Like, did you just come out to me, bro? Like, what? Yeah. Okay.
Alright, well, let's,
on that note, let's get into it.
Business.
Alright.
Business, man.
So at this point, you've tuned into the podcast, and you've already seen the title in the first minute or so, but we're going to say it now. We are talking, or we've got two instances here, and again, it plays into the subject that we're talking about tonight. We have perspective on one side, and on the other, I think Sky used the word self-judgment, which I think this should really become, because we should talk about it. And then we're going to kick it off with a reaction to a TikTok that Sky sent to me. Does that sound? Did I cover it? Does that kind of?
Oh, it's like, yeah, the reality. I think it's my reality versus anyone else's reality.
Yeah. So in the TikTok, this guy's like, he's like, everybody's got their own reality, and he's like, once I realized this, once I really accepted that, he said he lived a better life. He's been able to let go of things a lot easier. And what it was that he realized everybody has their own version of reality. So you look around your room, if anybody's with you, it's like, there's your reality, and then somebody else, whoever's sitting there with you, they got their own reality. It's like what we hold as truth, right? Would you say that? So yeah. It's like we're going around all like. So, and the way he put it was, there's 8,000 realities on planet Earth. There's every single person on Earth has their own. Did I say 8,000?
Yeah.
There's 8,000 of us on this flat Earth. No, he said 8 billion. So there's 8 billion realities. There's so many people on Earth, and everybody has their own reality. Like, I even think about kids where they're, everything's about them. They don't really know of anybody else's ideals. They're just like, me. Like, I got shit in my pants, change me. I'm hungry, feed me. It's like, give me everything you have. And that's the child's reality, So, and the way he was putting it was, when you go somewhere and you feel a certain way and you speak out about it from your point of view, your reality, and somebody gets up and starts screaming at them, that ain't true, this is that. They're speaking from their reality. And what this guy was saying was, once he realized that you can't get worked up over this reality that, somebody else is throwing at you. They're sharing their reality with you. You're sharing yours with them. And, I think when we make friends or something like that, it's like we share parts of our reality. It's like, yeah, we both live in this world. So I guess what the guy was saying was, once you realize that everybody's got their own opinion and there's no changing it, it's like this is their world in their eyes and it's your world in your eyes. And once you realize that, you can kind of bear things a lot easier. You can kind of live your life a little easier. And maybe even, and I think this is where the self-judgment comes in, maybe even not worry about what other people think.
Yeah.
Because you're not trying to fit into their reality. You're trying to fit into your own, what you believe. And so that's what I'm getting at from what I saw in this guy's TikTok. I'll probably have to go back and share his information just so people know, so they can go look at it themselves. It was a TikTok, so obviously it's gonna be a real short one. But in that little bit of amount of time, I think my own reality changed a little. Like, yeah, fucking right. Like, fucking hey, this guy's onto something.
I mean, I think it was. Yeah.
Go ahead.
I don't know, like sometimes we're so caught up in the same things that we, develop our opinions and even in sports, like we make all these comparisons and we're constantly, throwing in facts that we know and to try to seem like we're right or that we have a good understanding of how things are, but like to hear like whatever someone else is saying is you're not going to see that. You're seeing something different because you have your reality.
Yeah.
And as far as I think that was maybe how we interact with other people is not an issue, but sometimes can question your reality.
Yeah.
Because we're constantly comparing, we're constantly judging, and ultimately kind of judging ourselves sometimes when, we do care, or we put a lot of, thought into what someone says, and it's not, it doesn't have a positive impact. Maybe you hold back, or you don't want to, I don't know if that's accept your own reality or maybe limit yourself in your reality, because I think that's also a thing too, where if you pay too much attention to what someone else says or what someone else is doing, you could start to limit yourself because you believe what they say, or I don't know. I think we do kind of can be our worst critic, and to have someone say something negative or say something that triggers you to think, oh man, I am like a piece of shit or something, where maybe you had those thoughts before, and then someone says something that reassures that negative thing that's maybe not even there. It's just, again, where we critique ourselves, but we're also comparing to something that's not even worth comparing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a big example of that would be looking at people's Facebook pictures and seeing how happy they are, and then you start to kind of beat yourself up and go, oh, why am I not that happy? Like, oh, why don't we do that? And it's really, you're sharing the best part. People share the best part and go, oh, we're happy like this all the time, But I'm sure there's a bunch of other pictures and then pictures that weren't taken that we don't get to see. But there's the Facebook reality. There's the person who put it out there, and then there's you looking at it through the lens of your own ideas.
Yeah. Well, I think Facebook is kind of like, social media in general is sort of like, it's almost like a reflection of a reality, but not, I don't want to say not an honest reality, but not a natural one. It's almost like everybody's trying to pose right for the one picture that's going to get attention.
Yeah.
So, do you think that, when you said we don't see the so much the ugliness of it, but
yeah. I mean, some people do. I was just saying, you're not going to get in a fight and then take a picture of yourself all mad and maybe your chick all mad. I'm sure it's happened at one point or another, but in general, that's not what happens on Facebook.
Yeah, you posting the one where you guys are happy.
Yeah, you got that glow about you.
The first hour.
Yeah.
But do we do things, because of social media, do we do things now to only say we can document it to make it feel like we're doing something? Was it always for, I guess the social media affect us to where we're only doing things so we can tell people that we're doing things.
Maybe.
You know what I mean?
So I'm sure someone out there that's what they're doing. I wonder if some people won't even enjoy it if they can't document it. You know? And you actually made me wonder. Like, I was about to say that I think even I think it's a bit of a human thing, because I think even long before Facebook, and it's funny that they call it status, your Facebook status. And then, before Facebook was around, or social media in general, I think there was still a run or a hunt for status. You're always looking to one-up your neighbor or something, like, oh, check out how green my grass is, or look at my beautiful wife or my fancy car, like, look at my $10,000 watch. Like, there's still, I think it's a little bit of a human nature kind of thing, related to, what's the word? I'm sitting here thinking of the word. I don't want to say hubris, but it's like vanity. It's like this. Look at how good I got it. Look at me. Like, you want the attention. Maybe, and what's funny, like that alone is its own weird thing. Like a lady will dress sexy, let's say, and I'm not saying it's just ladies, but this is what it is in my example. Is a lady will dress sexy, but doesn't, and she's trying to catch attention. She's trying to get looks, but at the same time, on the same sword, I guess, the other sharp edge of it or whatever is that. Let's say the other side of the coin is that she doesn't want looks from some people. But you put it out there, and you're going to get looks either way. And I think that kind of goes along with the lines of what we're talking about here with reality.
Yeah.
Someone's own reality. They're like, oh, I didn't wear this for them. This is for me. Or, I don't want gross dudes looking at me. I just want dudes that I'm attracted to look at me. And dudes do the same thing. Dudes do the same thing. It's ridiculous. And that's what I'm saying. It's kind of human, because long before social media was up, we were doing the same thing.
On a smaller scale.
Yeah, just your neighborhood.
Your school,
in your family. Well, look what our daughter's doing. What are you doing, son? You lazy bastard. Everybody's vying for attention, and I think a little bit of attention goes a long way. But just like I want to compare it to capitalism. If you do really well in a year in the world of capitalism, if you do really well one year, it's never enough. You still got to one-up it the next year. Like, oh, well, we can do this good. I bet you we can do even better next year. And that's kind of the corruption of all things, I think, is that which I think is probably the bigger of the problems, is there's never enough. You know, you don't do like your best year and then like, oh, that's the best we've ever done, and then you go, wow, if we could just keep doing that every year, we'll be golden. But instead, it's like, how much better can we get? And that's capitalism right there. It's like an empty hole that never gets filled. And same with social media. It's like, damn, like, did I get enough likes this year? Have I taken enough pictures? And it's like, all right, well, I mean, hell, all right, don't get me wrong. I'm hoping we get our likes too here. But what I'm saying is, like, I do think it's a human quality. Something that, again, I kind of want to go into the animal kingdom too on this. And wonder, you know, do animals have vanity? You know, are they doing this because it almost seems like it's purely human to compete like this? Like, yeah, the male peacock has bright-ass feathers and he shows them off, you know, trying to get a female.
Yeah.
But that's like, is there a difference in that? Because I was just about to say, but that's like ingrained in their DNA. But I think half the crazy shit we do is the same thing.
Oh yeah. I don't know if this takes us off topic, but
go for it.
You know, like, you think of somebody that's, you know, colorblind, and they're living in the same world we're all living in, but their reality is different. But to kind of take that a step back, we all have our own pair of eyes to see.
Yes. Yeah.
So our perception, like, yeah, when you use that word perceptions, they're all going to be different. They're not like,
yeah.
It's not like you're going to see what I'm seeing. So with that in mind, like, I mean, I think that was kind of why, I don't know, because I was thinking, like, I mean, I know we don't, I'm like, I want to not end the podcast on the note that, yeah, you shouldn't listen to some people that are, you know, giving you advice because it's, you know, based off of their reality and then, but I also think it's important when someone challenges your reality because you're, you know, having to hold your ground, and sometimes you need that from, like, you know, your friends or like family or even an enemy, you know, that is just making you hold your own reality ground. So I guess that's kind of where I'm at in this whole place, is like, you know, you can only, you know, stay true to what you see versus what someone else is telling you what they see. But I don't know how that's related to humans trying to, I guess, get attention. Maybe that's what it is like, when we get the attention, that's reassuring that our reality is true. No? You know what I mean? Like
Validation. Okay. Yeah. No, I see what you're saying. I think you're onto something there. I don't know what it is, but yeah, I think you're onto something. There's a validation in people going, good for you, or like, oh, I wish I was there, it's so beautiful. It's like, yeah, it is beautiful.
Yeah.
But, like, it was still beautiful before you snapped that picture, you know? It's like, but maybe now it's beautiful to them because somebody else, you know, validated it. I was thinking of the example of blacking out drunk.
Okay. Explain.
I've definitely, yeah, please explain. I've definitely blacked out drunk a few times. Maybe more than a few times. If we're talking about reality here, I'd say more than a few times. And what always screwed me up was when I asked somebody else what I did. And they go off and tell me their story, and I go, that really doesn't sound like me. And they're like, yeah, well, you're all drunk and this, and that. And I'm like, still, it doesn't quite sit right with me. And then, like, every now and then, not every time, but every now and then, I'd have, like, a flashback. I'd either be drinking again or something, and I'd kind of hit that same level, or I'd be doing something that I did that night, and I'll get bits and pieces back. And I realized, no, it's not what I was doing. It was what they were telling me, what they saw and thought about it. They're not just telling you what you did. They're also telling you what they think you were thinking through their eyes.
Yeah.
So a long time ago, I realized I can't go off of somebody else's opinion of what I did. Now, maybe I was just giving myself a pass, but there was a few times where people have told me, oh, you did this, and this is what you were doing, or whatever, and I'm like, that doesn't sound right. Doesn't sound like me. Like, even when I'm bruised, that doesn't sound like me. And it took having some flashbacks and, like, catching back up with it and going, wow, like, that wasn't me, and I knew it. But I couldn't prove it because I was the blackout guy. And then later, I'd have to figure it out. And then I go, oh. And again, as far as this whole self-judgy part, like, which I think we should get deeper into, is also the person who's telling you what happened. It's always from their perspective. And if they had anything to do with what went wrong, which is usually why I wind up asking because something went wrong, if they were involved at all, the story changes to kind of leave those parts out. Like, oh yeah, this was all you. I've had that happen where they're like telling me what I did, and I'm like, oh yeah, and what were you doing? And they're like, oh, nothing. I wasn't
just chilling.
Yeah, I was just chilling, watching you. Like, oh yeah, yeah, sounds like you. Yeah. So anyway, the point of that was to hear. Like, say you weren't blacked out, but you remember the story one way, and then you go to talk about it with somebody that was there, which I think happens a lot about high school. You run into somebody from high school, and I'm bringing that up, I guess, because of the promotions and graduations that are going on right now. It's that time of the year, and you start reminiscing with people, and you start realizing you didn't quite see things the way they saw it, or they didn't see it quite the way you saw it. And again, it's the world you perceive. And I'm not saying, like, I'm in the third dimension and you're in the fourth dimension. I'm saying there's how you were raised and how I was raised. And we just happened to be, we grew up in the same high school. We became friends because maybe we're Aquariuses, or, we became friends because we both like music, or good at math, or smart, or something. And then you look back and you talk with somebody, and it's like their reality isn't your reality, and I think that's part. Like we always talk about adulthood. Me and you.
Yeah.
I still don't feel like an adult. All that, but I think part of maturity, part of becoming mature. And I don't claim to be this totally mature person, but I will say this. I think part of maturity is realizing that you're not the only person in the room. And that, you know, your words become accountable when you get older. Not so much as a kid, like you say some off-color shit. They're like, oh, these silly kids, they do say the damnedest things. And then you grow older and you say some off-color shit and somebody pops you in your mouth, you know, or something, you know, like you get canceled, you know, and you thought you could just, you know, shoot off at the mouth. The next thing you know, your shows are being canceled and nobody's watching your movies, you know. So again, it's like I was saying, like becoming becoming an adult or adulthood kind of opens up when you're no longer looking out for yourself, but you start realizing the real way things work. And for some people, like say a kid is, you know, say a kid is growing up in a home where their parents are both gone, but there's two younger kids, and they start taking care of the younger kids. For them, adulthood probably started right there. And then somebody else who didn't have any kind of responsibilities like that, they could grow up and be 35 when they first realize that they need to look out for their damn selves. You know, it happens to us all at different times, different points in our lives. And sometimes it takes an event to wake you open, or just someday you just realize it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what this whole story is about. What we're talking here is your perspective and self-judgment. And I really wanted to get into the self-judgment part because I've got plenty to say on that. But again, we're talking perception, reality, and I think at some point we should even talk about lying to yourself. What do they call that? Self-hypnosis? It's where you're lying to yourself.
Self-sabotage.
Well, that's a result for sure. I've been accused of that several times.
Self-sabotaging.
Yeah, for sure.
When you're talking about maturity, I think maturity is like being responsible for your own reality. Because as a kid, like you say, you can get away with certain things because you're still a kid. You know, like that excuse is kind of, you know, your blanket statement for all your fuck ups when you're young, and then you get old enough to where, oh, now this is that big of a mess up, but like, you know, like I guess that word maturity is almost like this guy has went through the process and now he's, you know, he's accountable for all his own actions, and there's not an adult that's gonna like be take over for him or whatever. Like, have somebody kind of just wave it off and be like, "Nah, they're a kid, or they don't know any better." I think that's another one too. Because, I don't know, I think a lot of this stuff too is like, when you say like how we're brought up and, you know, what we're taught when we're younger, but like, you know, everybody's kind of programmed differently. Or I don't want to say differently, but it's like everybody's programmed, but I know, it's almost like how we interact with each other in real time. It's like if we're all seeing different things, and we're almost having to somehow, I think that's what they call the real world, you know, like, or the workforce, like this space where you have to be able to cooperate with other people, and if you don't have the etiquette or the know-how to survive, then, you know, you're not going to make it.
Yeah, you're not going to do real well.
But how that has to do with reality or perception, I guess that's like that, when we're saying validation, that self-esteem. You know, you were talking about, like, you know, how someone remember you, like, I always thought you had, I mean, like, you believed in yourself, like, when you were younger. Like, I always felt like you believed in yourself, and that was your confidence.
Me personally?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, I don't believe in myself now.
No, I mean, you still have it, but I'm just saying that was always something that I was like, that Bob guy is, you know, he's one to watch. Because I think, you know, sometimes when we're not confident or we're not willing to explore, we put ourselves in the corner and we don't go nowhere. But I mean, I'm just telling you how I see it, but I always felt that you kind of explored. But I'm not saying you're perfect or I was modeling after you, but I'm just saying, like, that was like, oh, cool, man, that's someone to kind of maybe be around, but also, like, you know, what they're doing is cool. What they're doing is, I guess that's, I don't know what you call that. In this world where we all see something different, what I'm seeing someone do, or what I'm seeing you do, obviously has some kind of
interesting. On that note, I think why I brought up talking to somebody from high school, I was talking with my homeboy, or I don't know if we're homeboys anymore, but we were talking about back in the day, and I told him, and he called me one of the popular kids. And I was like, fuck, dude, like, no, like, I felt like, I don't know what you call it, we were like the misfits. I feel like we were misfits, like, we didn't really fit anywhere, so we wound up finding each other's, you know, like, and you're saying I was confident. I wasn't confident about anything, like, I think it was like in high school I started finding a little bit of confidence, but I don't think I found myself until after high school, where I started realizing. I think it was when I started paying my own bills and had my own place and my own car, and it was like, all right, what I can go anywhere or be anywhere, or just lock the doors and stay here. You know, it's like you had the freedom. And like he was like, oh, you guys are the popular kids, and I was like, I didn't feel that way. And that's a reality. That's a perception. And you were talking about outgoing and confident. I didn't feel that way. You know, and that was my reality. I didn't have that confidence until way later. So. That's pretty interesting there. Like I think you've made a pretty good point there. And while you were talking, I was also thinking about the law. Like when somebody does, like when a child does a truly heinous crime, they try them as an adult. you know? And according to the law, in some places, if you're 18, you can drink. All that crap going on in Texas right now, they're like, if you're 18, you can buy a gun. You know? There's... The letter of the law is saying you can do certain things and there's certain things you can't do. And a lot of them, or at least in this state and a lot of other states, it's 18, you're an adult. They're not testing your maturity, your mental status, your mental health. They're not looking into your background. They're just like, hey, you're 18, you're an adult.
Yeah. You're old enough.
Yeah. So, like, I think that's kind of another perspective to even think about here is in the eyes of the law. They try to make it as universal as possible so that they can keep everybody in line. And really, I'm sure that's probably one of the biggest troubles that police officers had to deal with is trying to convince somebody that they're wrong. And, you know, they're getting lied to every day, so their own perspective is being shaped by everybody they pull over. It's like they gotta have it hard, where it's like, oh, you fucking pigs, like this and that, like, oh, you know, you guys are the worst. Like, why are you pulling me over? Like, I'm on my way to work, or I gotta be somewhere, and you're screwing this up. Like, why are you doing this to me? Or the ones that are lying to them, their perspective's gotta be pretty screwy. Like, no wonder they're looking at me like a criminal, waiting for me to do something fucked up. Like, I feel like I'm like, you know, supposed to be innocent until proven guilty, but they're looking at me like, when's his true self going to show? Like I've seen in the past 24 stops I just did. Like, what they're seeing and what I'm seeing is totally different. You know, maybe when they pulled me over, this is the 20th person they pulled over, or the 20th person they pulled over for this reason, you know? And that's a pretty screwy perspective, and I think that's kind of interesting about laws, that they're attempting to do blanket statements and laws that are supposed to pertain to every single person.
Yeah.
And that's a pretty damn hard thing to do, which is what I think we're talking about here, is you can't fit everybody into the same box. How about that?
That sounds pretty. I mean, like I was thinking about it earlier too, because like even with science, like to me, it kind of debunks science, because
I gotta hear this.
It's like kind of like science is kind of like a shared concept of like what we're putting down as true facts, because you know science is like this pillar of truth, but if we all see stuff different, there's certain parts of our realities that aren't shared, that don't kind of fit under the umbrella of science. Like, and I think that's kind of, I don't know, just with how things have been lately, it's like I'm trying to be more in tune with, you know, this spiritual side of me, and sometimes that I have to not pay attention to, I don't want to say the noise, but just with that scientific, this is what it is. So when I say debunk science, it's like our own realities are so limitless that science kind of boxes us in.
Huh.
And when you're talking about this law where we're all expected to fall under, but yet, in the bigger picture, our reality surpass like any laws. So it almost makes you wonder, what do laws do to the psyche of a human being? Like, immediately told you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do this.
Yeah.
And maybe just being told that you can't do that shuts off all this other stuff that may be positive, may be beneficial, but because you're told no, and this is someone you hold high in what they say, and it's, you know, you believe it to the point where you conform, or you get programmed, you know, whatever, however you want to see it. You know what I mean? I mean, am I making any sense?
Yeah, you're still hitting it on the dot there. You got me thinking about different things here.
I mean, I'm not saying laws are bad. I'm just saying they could be affecting the capacity of how our minds work, and how our...
Are you saying they're putting Sky in the corner? They're putting Baby in the corner right here? Trying to enforce all these laws on you?
I think so.
Yeah.
And no one puts Baby in the corner.
No one puts Baby in the corner. So I was just watching this movie, Open Range. Have you seen it? Kevin Costner and Robert Duvall? Or maybe it's Harvey Keitel. No, it's Robert Duvall. And the whole story is basically these cowboys. They're a small group, like 2 older guys and a couple of younger guys. And they are, and I think the whole title of the movie says it all. It's Open Range. They're cattle runners, and they're running cattle, and they're letting their cattle graze wherever they find rest. I guess they're taking them for slaughter or to sell, and they're stopping along the way on their traveling to feed the cattle, let them graze. And then at some point, apparently they stop in the wrong place where, you know, one big mouth guy runs the whole show. Like he claims to own, you know, acres and acres of land, and he finds these people grazing on his land, and then begins this long drawn out story of them butting heads, getting people killed, having these big fights, and trying to chase them out of town because they are grazing on land that this guy's like, well, this is my property, and you guys are stealing from me and my company and my livelihood. And to them, they're like, hey, this is America, and wherever we roam, free grazing is still a free enterprise. You can still do this. It's still allowed in this beautiful country. And I think that kind of goes along with what you were saying about laws putting people in the corner, people, you know, hindering people from being who they are. I mean, let's touch on that. Like laws do tend to exist for a reason. Like something happened, usually something bad, and then they had to produce a law to try and fight that. But as you were saying, like, how could they possibly apply it to everybody? We'd all have to be the same in order for that to work out, and we're not.
Yeah.
And I was sitting there, and I was thinking about natives. You know, this is the Natives in America podcast. Let's say that again. I was sitting there thinking about this guy saying, oh, you know, we're Americans, this is America, we should be able to allow to roam wherever we please and stop wherever we want in this beautiful grand country. And, you know, this is for everybody, and we're grazing, you know. He's like, it's not an illegal thing to do in his eyes. And then the guy who ran everything, he's like, oh, you're fucking free grazers. You guys are scoundrels and scallywags, and I don't want you here. You're taking away from my profits, and you're killing my cow. You're killing the grass. You're overgrazing. You guys aren't welcome here. He hated them.
Mm.
And the whole time Robert Duvall's giving this whole speech about, oh, this is our land, I was thinking, wow, funny you should say that. Like, it's the natives' land. And then somebody came along with a bigger stick, and started, killing, drawing blood over the land. So it was it was kind of I don't want to say, I guess an oxymoron. It was ironic. Let's do that. It was ironic that he's like, how could these people try and enforce laws on me when I'm American and this is all my land? Like, this is us. This belongs to everybody.
Yeah.
And it was supposed to be set back in the Wild West days. And all I could think when I was hearing him give that speech, I mean, it was a good speech. You kind of get humbled by speeches like that. You get that little, I get that shortness of breath, that little, like that crying huff. When I hear a good speech, I love some good writing. But at the same time, I kind of smile like, oh, Robert Duvall, like this. Not even Robert Duvall's fault, but the character he was playing was like, oh, this land's everybody's. And I kind of I wonder if this same guy that he's playing, I wonder how he feels about natives, He's probably looking down and had taken part in the taking of land from people who were supposed to be free before him,
Yeah.
So it's a very interesting perspective that he had. It was ironic. But, for the cowboy-loving movie watcher, it was perfectly fine. I was fine with it. I was enjoying the movie, and every time I had seen it before, and every time I saw the title, I was like, man, I'm going to watch that again. And I finally watched it again, and it was good. Don't get me wrong, but again, my perspective started coming into play. And it made me just kind of smirk, like, oh, imagine that. Somebody showing up and telling you what you can or can't do with your land, quote unquote. And it was, the parallels were hilarious. They were, I don't want to say hilarious. It was cringeworthy. I cringed a little when he was giving this big speech, and I was like, man, I want, the people who said that before you. Interesting.
Yeah. I'm tripping on just how there's this point in, I don't know if it's history or just how we're built, or I think of the piñata, when someone hits piñata and it busts open and all the candy falls, and you're just scraping, trying to get like the most, or at least something for yourself.
Yeah.
And it felt like there was this time in America where it was grab everything for yourself, and then once you had that, you started building. But it's almost like there's two steps that you kind of, talking about trying to have a perception of a colonist or something like that, or someone that's just, it's almost like looting, like going into the mall and just taking whatever you want to take.
It's manifest destiny that these pants and these shoes are mine now.
But it becomes like, not hypocritical, but it becomes like, they almost don't tell you that all you're competing with. that's, I don't know. I hate to say it, but it's like the American ideal or the American. Sometimes there's no moral. There's no substance in the belief. It's just a statement that kind of encourages, maybe you to do something wrong or do something that you wouldn't want done to yourself. I think that's what you're saying. It's like, you can't take my land, but yeah, it wasn't your land always. And so there's a little, like, irony or hypocritical, like, just being, like, not realizing, I guess, what you bring to the picture. Yeah. So when you were saying, like, lying to yourself and, and then even the self-judgment, it's like, it's a lot of, I don't want to say lying, but just a lot of the truth not shared with how America became so great, but then when you're breaking it down, like, from the native perspective, or even just myself, like, it's almost trying to compete in their world with their rules, but maybe I shouldn't be thinking like that, because that's putting myself in those laws, I don't know. Is it wrong for a native to believe in manifest destiny?
Wow. You just opened a can of worms, my friend. I don't know.
You got the scenario from this movie you're watching all wrapped up in how we perceive things, but like.
Well, what was cool about the scene? He's standing in the middle of this great big open field, and there's mountains and beautiful sky and rolling hills of green. This is grass, and he's making this big speech, and you can tell he loves the land, and he feels like he belongs there, and he's feeling in his speech that this land belongs to him and everybody that'll come after him and his entire family, and he loves the land. Open range. He loves the open range. And there's parallels with me in that, and natives. It's like the land. This is our land. This is like our ancestral land. This is where our relatives have been, and this is where our kids will be. And we're not going anywhere. And we have a right to it by birth. And that's why I also brought up before, like with that thing that was said to me was like, oh, you've given up fighting. And it was because I was talking peace, and my whole reasoning was that nobody here who's already here now is going anywhere. Like, the guy I was talking about Americans or America going elsewhere and leaving natives here to be, and I was like, man, it's not. I felt like he was not thinking in reality terms at all when he was telling me this. I was like, man, you're way off base. You're in La La Land. You're dreaming. Because if America wasn't here, then somebody else would come. And we have no armies. You know, we have people. But people aren't what wins wars these days. It's missiles and tanks and jets and drones, and we don't have that. Could we get some? Sure, but it's like, I was telling them that, or maybe I said it later, it was like, man, everybody who's grown up here now, the people who are around now, most of them were born here. You know, and it's like, all right, so they feel the same kinship to the land that we do. It's like, man, I was born here, I grew up here, I'm probably gonna die here, and I love this land. And you know, in this battle between America and the natives or whatever, like I don't see anybody backing off, and it's because of the land. The land's here, and it's still beautiful, and it's still open and wonderful and mysterious, and I think everybody who's here feels like it belongs to them and their own reality. You know, like we all have our realities, and it's like we love it. I love the land. I love those mountains. I love Babo. I love the saguaro. Like I love every plant and animal that's out there. And that's my reality. It's like, and it's shared by a whole bunch of people. I think that's the other interesting part about this. We can be all so different and individualistic. I think it's the word.
Yeah.
But there are also parallels and things we have in common. And oftentimes I bet it's more in common than we would like to admit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's also too like maybe the history of what has gone on. You know, we're still seeking some type of justification or some type of resolve, I think, and it doesn't seem like that's coming.
Yeah.
It still seems like there's another agenda that we're not included in. And that's just me being honest with how it feels sometimes.
Yeah.
How history is and how, I don't know, the longer end of things. But I don't know if talking about this is not related to what we were talking about in the beginning, because there's also the shared I don't know, a shared relationship, like this, I guess what it means to feel and say you're native because you know that's where you're from. And some, and I think that's where, when I was saying like no moral or no, like there's not a place where they can say that's where I'm from and mean it the way you're talking about it right now. Like, I love this where I was born, and where I grew up, and sometimes I think that it's missing in some people, where there is no like I won't say respect or regard, but it's just, yeah, we're gonna build stuff right here, and we're gonna take that from you and manifest destiny and make America great again, and just all these bullshit sayings that justify maybe doing something that might be unfair in another person's reality.
Yeah.
In other people's perception. But I was thinking about, too, the power of film, because if a person is giving you a reality through film, and, we've said this before, our fascinations with them and just how they can be like these glimpses of the future, or like some way of teaching us something, or learning through film, or maybe being programmed through film, but like that's a lot of power to have and to be able to create something.
Yeah.
And just what is the impact of like, again, the Westerns, just how there might be a group of people that think that, like, natives aren't here, that they didn't win the war, they used to be here. Now we're here. And I think that's kind of, how I've been feeling lately. Even talking about the CRT and how, they're being more critical of what they're exposing kids to, and not bringing up these type of histories because they make us, feel guilty, or they make us feel sad. It's more excuses to ignore how Native people have been treated. How our ancestors were, put through, a lot of trauma.
Yeah.
And so we as individuals just kind of have to somehow make sense of that. And still be, like when I said playing by the rules, I'm like, still be, able to, I guess, exist in the real world, what we call it, America. But, I don't know, I guess having to manage that experience where, yeah, you're playing the game, but also trying to remember why the game is there. And what you're trying to do outside of the game. That's what I think.
Yeah, this whole dual, well, it's kind of like a selective memory and duality that, like, the U.S. right now as a whole, militarily, are going into other countries and getting involved in other people's wars in the name of stopping genocide and stopping mass murder, I guess. Stopping war. Or starting wars to end regimes. And what's interesting is, to some countries, like a bigger power, like right now we're farting around in the Middle East, and we're fucking around over in Ukraine and Russia, and then at the same time I was listening, I think I told you about the organ transplanting and donating, not even donating, but organ transplanting in China. And the Uyghurs are this whole religious group, Asian religious group, or I don't even know what they're classified as, but they're being rounded up and murdered or sent to concentration camps. But because they are who they are and they're somewhat an ally, somewhat somebody like a superpower, we're not doing a damn thing about it. You know? And Russia did this before, and we didn't say shit. They've invaded Ukraine before. That's how. Like it used to be Russia. I think it was back when it was in the USSR, and when the USSR fell, they separated and became their own country. And Russia's been trying to get it back ever since over the oil fields and all that. And so the U.S. has got involved. And there was all these mass murders in Africa, so the U.S. got involved. There was interests that were shared, and the U.S. got involved. And, you know, they're like, oh, in the name of stopping genocide, we'll get involved. Or the nuclear bombs, they're like, oh, we don't want these guys to have nuclear bombs. This is bad stuff. When the U.S. is the only country that's ever dropped a bomb. You know? Used one. And, the U.S. attempted and succeeded in many cases of genocide against the natives. But now they're against that, you know? But they're kind of, again, selective in their perspective because they're not going after all genocide. They're going after genocide when their interests are involved. So it's the appearance of being against genocide. You know? It really is the appearance, because if it was truly against all of it, then we'd go after all of it. Or, you know, there'd be some world pact to go after all of it, but it's being allowed to go on in some places because they either want to turn a blind eye to it or it doesn't serve their interests. It fucks with their bottom line, the profits. So they're not doing it. They're not following through with these pledges that they've made, like in the UN. You know, it's a selective memory. Nobody should ever drop this bomb, but we're the ones who dropped it first. You know, and there shouldn't be genocide when, you know, there's genocide still going on here in America. But the government or whoever, I'm not even convinced the government makes all the decisions these days. I think there's some other group above our government that's making these calls. Money and corporations, you know, money is kind of the root of all these evils. And money has changed identity throughout our history. It's you know, sometimes it's gold, sometimes it's silver, sometimes it's uranium. Right now there's water. There's all these gold rushes, and I liked your explanation of the piñata where everybody's scraping, you know, to get as much as they can for themselves. And while you were saying that, I was thinking, and there's always a kid that didn't get a single piece of candy because they were either too slow to get in or they just reacted too slow, and, you know, they got boxed out, so now they're crying on the side. With no candy, you know?
Yeah.
And then there's always somebody standing around going, oh, give them a piece of candy, you know, give them something. And I was thinking about that, I was like, damn, like, yeah, everybody rushed in and dug up everything they could until there was just scorched earth. And still, there's one or two kids standing on the side crying their eyes out because they didn't get a piece, you know?
Yeah.
Very powerful imagery. I was just sitting there like, damn, we didn't even talk about the kid that didn't get any candy. It definitely doesn't get divided equally.
Yeah. Damn. That says it all.
Yeah. Yeah. Ooh.
But in our, feels like we were getting lost in what we were talking about, but like,
so maybe
in this,
I think we're talking world perspective now instead of personal perspective. But this counts. It all counts. It's what we see and what we do, and there's a difference. What we see, what we think, and what we do, our actions, I think, really do speak louder than words.
Yeah.
And, you know, sometimes the government needs the perspective of the people to be in line with the perspective of the government.
Yeah. Damn. Reminds me of this short story called "What You Pawn, I Will Redeem."
What you pawn, I will redeem.
It's about this. I don't want to call him alcoholic, but it's this guy that parties a lot in Seattle, and he's a native guy, and he just so happens to be at a pawn shop, and he sees one of his grandma's like regalia. It was like a beat it, like a scarf dress looking thing, and he knows it's his grandma's because she puts like, I think like 2 yellow beads together on all her work, so he knows that's hers, and she pawned it to make money or something. But he knows that's hers, so he goes to the guy and says like, "Hey, that's my grandma's, you know, like I want to buy it, but he don't have no money." And the guy's like, "Well, I'll hold it for you for a couple days, but like I have to sell it." And you know, he doesn't have a job, and so he goes around like trying to find money, and the guy like lucks out, and people are helping him, but he just keeps partying with his friends. Like, I think someone gives him like $20, and he just goes and finds his friends, and they drink, and like every time someone gives him money, he doesn't save it or anything. He just kind of, he has the intention to get the regalia out of the pawn shop, but he eventually doesn't. And it just kind of reminds me of this, like what we're talking about, where the American dollar suddenly is more valuable than what was valuable before the American dollar. And I don't know, it's almost like maybe we're programmed to value money, or almost like, I don't want to say compare ourselves to the money, but like almost feel like if we have a lot of it, we're more happy or more satisfied, but it's like, are we tricked into thinking because I have X amount of dollars, I'm in the game?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's just that story I'm thinking of as we're talking about, like, you know, not everybody getting a fair amount, and maybe some people having advantages over other people, and this way of feeling connected to the land. I don't know if that is the same thing as wanting to be rich. I don't even know what I'm talking about. I'm just like, I'm lost in these two things that we're saying, because it's like, how we perceive things is important, but then there's these other concepts that have been introduced to us since we've been born, money and you know, jobs and, you know, just those concepts of, you know, working for the mighty dollar, you know, and how that shapes who we are. But yet, that concept or that construct is it so powerful that it's, again, interfering with our individual reality of what our mind is capable of doing.
Huh.
You know, like earning money is maybe a small task in the bigger in a bigger picture.
Yeah.
And there's other tasks that we can be doing, but we're programmed to stay on top of that.
Huh. Yeah, I already announced, you know, I got this job, and there was a long pause on my job life where I was just chilling. I was at home, you know, back in the Ville. No job, but like I'd make a little money here and there doing little projects.
Mm.
I was doing okay, and I felt like I was all right. And then when I knew I was getting this job, it was like, damn, I'm fucking broke. Like I don't have nothing, you know, like I don't got anything. I really got to get this job so I can start making some money and I can be better off. And, you know, that's way different than the perspective that I had when I left town. When I quit my job. I had a job.
Mm.
I gave them like a month notice, and then I said, let's see in 2 weeks, and if I still want it, I'll give you my 2 week notice. And they're like, all right. And then I turned it in. And I was like, yeah, let's do this.
Yeah.
And it felt like I was doing the right thing. I was like, yeah, I'm on it. Perspective-wise. I was like, yeah, this works out. I'm going to leave. I'm going to go help with my parents. And they were doing really bad at the time. Like, or at least it seemed like it. Like I was like, man, I got here just in time to help. You know, and then reality set in, and it's like, oh, I'm back in my parents' house. You know, this is my reality now.
Mm.
And I was still fine with it for a good long while, but I was under my parents' roof again. I went from having my own house, my own, you know, ride, my own stuff, to basically squatting in their house. And that was like going back for me, but I didn't see it that way when I made the decision.
Mm.
And what's funny is now that I got this job, like my mom's saying little things here and there that I don't know if they're slips, but she's like, "Oh, you've been with us this whole time." Like it was okay when it was happening, but now that I have a job, it's like, oh, about time, you know. Not thank you, but for the time you took off to help. But it was like, about time, you freaking bum. You know, she didn't say that when I was living there like that, but now that I have a job, oh, it's perfectly fine to say it. And I'm like, oh, okay. I see how it is. Like, all right. Well, apparently I didn't see that from my perspective. You know, like I could hear it. I could hear it when she'd come in the room and my shit would be everywhere, and she'd be like, you know, huffing and puffing. You know, getting loud, not saying anything, but just huffing and puffing. And, you know, the perspective there, she didn't say such things when I was there. And now that I have a job, it's perfectly okay to say it's about fucking time. Like you've just been laying around not doing anything. It's like, damn it, I knocked out all kinds of projects, but it's about time now that I do have a job. I'm like, wow. I see. Again, my perspective has changed. In 0.5 seconds of speech there, I'm like, oh, okay. You know? That was a bit of an eye-opener. She just said that earlier, and I was just like, oh okay. It's okay to say that now that I'm employed. I see. You know? That was a whole perspective changer. Like, oh, I'm employed and I got money coming. Okay, now my reality has changed again. And like I said earlier, I was like, I'm realizing with this new job that I can't jump on spontaneous trips now. Now I've got a job that I'm accountable to. I have to call in and ask for permission. You know?
Yeah. I mean, that's another tricky part of the journey is, I guess, finding your place in the world, but then I don't know. It's like, I feel like the job I have now, I didn't take a pay cut, but I think I made more at the other job, but it wasn't like that much more. It was just a little bit more, but I had a lot more freedom. And, you know, I don't know, I just, you know, how you want to spend your time, and, you know, and if it's not something worth the struggle, but just like, you know, I can do this for, you know, an 8-hour shift, and, you know, and still, I don't know if it's making me feel like a difference, but what I've been also kind of not struggling with, but just sort of recognizing, I guess, like, when you know again, not validation, but just when you know your work is being appreciated. I think that's another part of it where it would be ideal if we were all doing a job where we knew we were making a difference, or our work was like value to another person. I mean, maybe I'm just talking for myself, but like, I think if everybody had that feeling, because I don't know if everyone has that feeling where they like their job that much. And I think it also goes back to the moving the cheese, because you know, perspective. One person says one thing, and suddenly you see it all differently. And I think that's kind of how I don't know. 'Cause it's like I can maybe find a job where I'm making bank, but then it's like, oh, but you can't work on, or you work on Saturdays and Sundays, or, you know, you don't get days off, or, you know, just sort of where is the money worth the sacrifice, or I don't know what I'm saying, but I'm just, I guess how you're spending your time while you're working is important too.
Yeah, absolutely.
but in the game, we're all trying to make some money to survive. So, I'm like, I'm talking about money, but I'm trying to like not add it to this equation where we have this reality of what we're seeing, and we don't need money to make it better. Because I think that's sort of this way. I don't know why we think that way or we feel that way. It's like, if we have all this money, then suddenly we can do all this stuff.
Yeah.
And but does that mean the life or the experience is going to be way, way better, you know?
Yeah. Well, we're in a capitalist society, and that puts a high value on money.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you have it or don't have it decides where you are, your status in the capitalist society. And you basically said it already. It's like your freedom. You had a little more freedom. Like maybe there's not that big a bit of money difference, but your freedom has changed. Mm-hmm. And that tells me right away your freedom has more value than money. And like while you were talking about that, I was thinking when I left work, it completely felt right. And then like almost immediately, I think I went on like 3 vacations. Or at least there were vacations for the people that I went with, but for me it was like, wow, this is a trip that I couldn't have gone on if I were still working.
Uh-huh.
Which sounds the opposite, because it's like you need money, right, to go on vacation, to go on a trip. And I went on like 3 trips right away, and it was like, wow, like I wasn't being paid. I might have had a little bit of money, but I was there and available. Free, if you will, to go on the trip.
That's wild.
Yeah, and another perspective would be, I wasn't around when my parents got married. I wasn't born yet. And one year, I want to say like 2009. No, I think it might have even been earlier than that. Anyway, when it was, my parents decided, we're going to have some fun, go to Vegas and remarry. And I didn't go because I was working. So they married twice, and I missed both of them. One, I had no choice in the matter, but because I was working, I really made this huge mistake and missed this huge event. I mean, they were doing it for fun, kind of, but it was this huge thing that I could have seen, and that's a huge regret that I have in my life at this point in time. Like, I wasn't there for that. I can only see it in photos and maybe a DVD if I can find it. But I wasn't there. I wasn't there, and I missed it because I was at work. And I swear to God, no amount of paychecks that I was working for at that time had the same value of maybe being able to see my parents in their ripe age freaking express their love for one another and recommit to each other for another, I think they were already married nearly 30 years at the time.
Wow.
And then they're like, we're going to remarry. And it was kind of funny. They were doing it kind of laughingly. You know, they got married by Elvis, this really terrible Elvis impersonator. But apparently my dad started, tearing up. My mom was crying, and it became this thing, this incredible experience. And I missed it. For a bullshit job. And I know whatever job I was working at the time was not worth missing that, but I did. And like right now, earlier today, my cousin called me and said, "Hey, what are you doing? What are you doing this day?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm going to be working." And he's like, "Oh, I was just calling to see if you want to go tubing with us."
Mm-hmm.
And I've been wanting to go tubing for a decade now, like at least a decade now. I want to be going tubing. And I swear to God, if they had asked me 2 weeks ago before I got this job, I would have went. I would have done anything to go. And now I'm like, it's going to be like my second week at work. I can't call out to do that. I can't do that. Can I? I can't do that. And that's just the new reality that having a new job put in my life. Now it's like, I got to wager what this job is worth to me to miss doing something that I really, really want to do with people that I want to do it with.
Mm.
And it's like, my God. It was another eye-opener where I realized, like you said, the value of freedom. How much is somebody going to pay you for your time? And what's it worth to you?
Well,
I was also thinking about this when I wasn't working. Try telling someone that you were interested in that you were quote unquote self-employed. It's like, oh, you're poor. Like, what? No, I'm self-employed. Yeah, you're poor. You don't have a job. Society frowns on that. They're like, hey, I do this, and this, and I got a Bulgari ring. Like, whatever. And what do you do? Oh, I occasionally make bread or build something. And that's it. That's about it. And it's something I'm proud of. It's something I can do, and I was happy to do it. There are people that are incapable, the same age, same size, same weight, same maybe value, money bracket, that can't do what I can do.
Mm.
So it's like perspective. I could either frown and cry to myself, or I can go, well, I can do this and they can't. But again, perspective. In the society we're in the society we're living in now, if you don't have a job, it's kind of frowned upon. So, in part, I'm rejoining society, by getting this job. But in another part, I've kind of restricted my options to when I'm not working.
Yeah.
And that's a hard pill to swallow now, because I had a long bout of, like, if somebody said, hey, we're planning this trip, I'm like, count me in, I'm going.
Yeah.
And those days are gone.
Well, when you said vacation, I'm like...
From what?
Like, vacation is... Like, vacations end, you can't... Like, they don't last forever.
Yeah, but I can remember it. I can still see the ocean and see my son, or hear my son telling his grandma the ocean sucks because he got wet. And that's priceless. He's like, I didn't like the ocean. It sucked because I got wet. And he's like, son.
Damn. But I'm saying, like, what am I saying?
What are you saying, Sky?
I'm saying that this world where you have, I guess, commitments to certain things, like whether it be a job where you have to be there at this time or that time, or whether it be, this a certain type of freedom you want to keep. And maybe that's why we go on vacations. And I don't know, it feels like I don't know how to vacation. But I do end up going places and don't realize it's a vacation because, there's usually another thing tied to it that's important. Why we got to do it? Why we got to go here?
Yeah.
But it's never like, oh, we're going on a vacation to this place. It feels like that doesn't happen for me. But it is important to have road trips and to get out and see new places, but there's always that returning back, and I think that's what we're talking about. Is when we return back. What are you doing with your time? And what do you have to show for your time? And I think that, like, not the law, but that general, I guess that general statement that we can all say is like, I work, I have a job.
I've got a job.
And that's, now you're in that bracket where you're like, I gotta work, I gotta work in the morning, I have a boss, I
had to say today, no, I can't go. I gotta work that day.
Mm-hmm.
That was a crushing moment for me right there. It was tough. But then in the back of my mind, I was like, you know what? I'm going to have the money pretty soon. And I'm going to have some time off. Maybe this year, maybe next year, I'll be able to organize my own trip to go tubing. Hell, I might even be able to pull it off this year.
You never know, man.
Yeah, I never know. But that's what it took, was to make it okay, because it hurt. It was like a fresh wound. It was like, motherfucker.
Yeah.
No, I can't go. Like, I swear to God, like 2 weeks ago, I wasn't even sure I was gonna get this job. So it was like 2 weeks ago, in a heartbeat, I would have been like, yeah, let's fucking row. Let's row. That sounds like fun. Hell yeah, I want to do that. I'll bring the beers. Like, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Let's go tubing down the river. And now it's like, I gotta work that day. I'll have fun. Think about me while you're enjoying yourself in the sun. Yeah. That was a tough pill to swallow. And the only thing that made it okay was I was like, well, I can gain some part-time off, some PTO time, and I'll have a paycheck, and maybe I'll organize my own trip.
Well, when we were talking about maturity earlier, that's sort of where our mind has to go, where it's like, it's not the end of the world because I can't go tubing,
Yeah.
But, hey, in a few more months, that's a possibility off of my own action.
Yeah.
So it's this almost not a high road, but like a high road mentality to where you're like, I'm gonna go at another time.
Yeah.
It's like that when we're saying night me or day me, or like responsible me is on duty today,
Yeah. Fuck. Thought I killed that guy. Thought I killed him a year ago.
And Mr. Responsible is, taking care of business. So
damn, fuck that guy.
He's pretty legit.
He's clocked in.
He's honorable with his time.
Oh God, why do I revive this man?
And he signed the contract.
He's the type of guy that does sign contracts.
He signed the tax forms.
Totally intending to file taxes next year.
Isn't that the certain reality that hits you when you're filling out the application, or when you're filling out the paperwork, because you're getting your foot in the door of the business?
putting your big boy pants on. And damn, Sky, don't rub it in.
Nah, I remember. No,
Whose
but
idea
I
was
remember
it?
that. When I got my first job at Bash's. Well, that wasn't my first job, but it was like one of the first jobs where they were asking, if you die, who does your money go to? And it was like, oh shit, like this is some real shit, like
Some
thinking
real
about
shit. Yeah.
it. And, I think it was just, I thought about it way too much. So I'm like, damn, let's get all this money on the mate. Hey, shit. It was like, that really made me think, because I'm like, dang, like,
yeah.
I don't know, just your lifespan and where you all work and your demise and...
Yeah, I was signing those papers, yeah.
Yeah.
Filling out the health insurance, the life insurance. The disability and dismemberment insurance. Long-term disability insurance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's some big boy pants.
That's big boy pants and a t-shirt with a collar on it.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Yeah. Jesus.
Yeah, that's how it goes, man.
Take the wheel, Jesus. Just take the wheel. Yeah, man. Yeah, that is definitely a perspective changer. And I swear, for a brief moment, I missed being unemployed. I could have just been like, yo, let's roll. Party on, Wayne. Let's go. Let's go. Yeah, let's go. Yeah, there was a brief moment where I just kind of looked back at irresponsible. Well, free me. Let's say free me. I don't want to call him irresponsible. I took care of business. I didn't leave that out, but I was definitely unemployed me.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like I didn't do it physically, but metaphysically, I looked over my shoulder and looked at Free Me, and he just hung his head down like, damn. I'm ashamed of you, bruh. Like, this is what you wanted. This is what you wanted. Man.
But then there's this, I don't know, like, change has to happen,
Yeah.
Or, I mean, if you're in a spot where not everything is A-okay, and you something has to change.
Yeah. Definitely.
There's that part of it where you can't forget why you're changing things up, because it's so easy we can think about, like, oh, it was nice to not have to clock in, and just sort of be off the grid.
Make my own hours.
Yeah, but like you said, like, there's other stuff kind of opens up, but it's, following those schedules that you gotta follow now. But I don't know, I think that's ultimately kind of, what we were taught is go to work, come home, have your leisure time, and then get ready and go back to work.
Yeah, do it all over again the next day.
Yeah. But yeah, I miss those days. I mean, there was a point where I wasn't in school, but my niece, babysitter, so I just I miss those babysitting hours, you know. And they kind of just eat breakfast when they eat breakfast, and they wake up, cereal, and watch some cartoons until the mid-afternoon.
Hell yeah.
Make a nice snack. You know, the day is very carefree, and you're just you're just kind of playing off of what the kids wants to do.
Yeah.
And that was a cool setup for a while, you know, but getting a job, or at least getting a job after school, for me was like, you know, I made it to the big leagues.
Damn.
But once I got that feeling, then it wasn't that important. Like now, with like that, you're free. How you spend your time, your freedom, even within the job, is. I guess that's something I was wanting. So, yeah, no, it's moving the cheese in the right way, I think,
Definitely.
to experiencing something else, you kind of have to move the cheese. But would you say you moved the cheese? Bob?
You mean now doing this job?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, there was the gut check today saying, no, I can't go tubing. But really, this job's got many benefits. I'm going to be paid pretty damn well, and I already really like the people I'm working with. So, and it's making me look down the road in my own future, where it's like, I don't know. I think the best moving the cheese scenario is when it makes you think of possibilities. Because you get bogged down doing the same old thing. After a while, those possibilities kind of disappear. You stop seeing them. You stop daydreaming about them.
Yeah.
And you're not human if that doesn't happen. Like, everybody experiences that. It's this, like, the mundane, the on again, off again. You know, waking up and doing it all over again. That shit hits home. And some people can handle it. Some people are just numb to it. And some people move the cheese. And taking on this job was more about getting a job and coming back to town. Like, I was down on the res, and I was thinking, I want to come back to town because my son's here, and I want to see him when he's going to school. I want to be part of his childhood and that whole experience of going to school.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I better get some money then. I better be able to go. I better be able to show up. And so that's what it was about in the beginning. But now that I'm in the job and I've got all these people around me going, write down on paper what your next step will be and how long it's going to take you to get there, and there's programs and support programs in place that'll push me to go to the next step. And it got me thinking, all right, well, what do I want my next steps to be? And from just that personal question of asking myself, and listeners, and Sky, because Sky's thinking about moving the cheese, when you ask yourself that, what do I want next? What do I want to do different? What do I want to do with my time that I have here? Just asking that question and then working out, how to figure out how to answer it. That is the beginning of moving the cheese. That is, I think a lot of us think the end game is getting the job, And it's easy to go, okay, that's the end of the journey. You know, I'm satisfied. I'm making enough money. You know, I'm doing okay. But sometimes you get, like, I think we forget to stop everything and reassess. And go, is this the best thing for me? Am I spending my time wisely? Are they paying me enough to do this? You know, it isn't about money. I've said that plenty of times. But, again, it was going to be very difficult to do what I wanted to do for my son without it. And, like I said, asking myself that question, what do I want to do next? What do I see in my near future, and what's further down the road in the future that far beyond what I can guess?
Yeah.
When you start thinking about that, and maybe even putting something down on paper, that's a whole other step. Is making it like it goes from thought to reality. You've now taken something that was only a thought, and you put it on paper. It becomes It's hard evidence. It goes from thought to reality. It's on paper now. And when you think about your future and you write about your future and you set goals for your future, then you are on the path to moving the cheese. And that's definitely what this job has done for me. Already. I had like a whole first week of training and orientation, and this week was my first actual week. And at the end of this week, I have been wiped out, tired.
Damn.
But I've got a smile on my face, a small feeling of satisfaction, and there's a soreness in my body that's telling me I've been sedentary for far too long. You know?
Yeah.
So yeah. So my perspective, my reality has changed. And I can thank this job for that. Now, am I happy that I'm not tubing? No, I am completely unhappy about that. But this job does mean that I might be able to fund my own trip. And I might even get, and with part-time off, paid time off, I might be able to get paid to do it. I could be tubing down the street drunk off my ass and be getting paid. So, that's another possibility. Yeah. So yeah. That's a long drawn out answer, but the answer to your question is yes. This job was definitely a moving, or at least a nudging of my cheese, where it's like I need to move it. And now the cheese is rolling, and I think the curiosity is part of the satisfaction of moving the cheese. The possibility, the unknown. There's a little bit of fear involved, and it's a good feeling. So like I said, I'm worn out. I'm beat up. I'm not going tubing this weekend, but I think I'm happy about it. I can live with it.
Damn. Sound like you're very mature. Growing up right in front of me.
Yeah. Oh shit.
I'm not going tubing today. I'm not going tubing right now, but I'll be going tubing later.
Yeah, brother.
I
think that's a good note to end on there.
Grown man shit.
Grown man shit. Yeah. You got any final words for the people?
Trust your inner being on what you're seeing in reality, and don't always bow down to what other people see, because that's what they're meant to see, and you're meant to see something else. So
yeah,
it's not always the real world. It's always kind of like what matters in your own head, your own mind, because I think at the end of the day is just, being somewhat satisfied with your actions. And I think that's a lot of it, what we're saying. Like, it's important to be lazy, it's important to go on vacations, it's important to have work, and it's important to, I guess, feel that you're maybe performing at your best self, because ultimately it's how we believe in ourselves and what we feel for ourselves. And when we don't have that confidence or that will to try something, then we put ourselves in spots where it's not easy to come back from. So I just encourage everybody to trust their own reality.
Yeah. And don't worry about other people's perspective about what you're supposed to be doing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know what you're going to call this episode, but
perceptions and judgment.
It went all over the place, though.
So. Yeah, maybe. I think we've
we tied it all together.
I think we've kept it in perspective.
I see.
See what I did there? See Okay. All right. Well, everybody who tuned in tonight and made it this far, thank you for listening. We really appreciate it. And you're tuning in to the Reservation Radio Network, to this, the Natives in America podcast. So thank you for listening. Please subscribe.
Hit us up.
Yep. Give us a thumbs up and hit the notification bell so that you can get notices whenever we release our next video.
Leave a comment.
Yeah, comment. I enjoy responding to comments, and I try to respond to them as quick as possible, so feel free. Okay?
E.
All right. Peace out, everybody.
Peace.